Welcome to the AICPA Town Hall Series, your resource for the latest news and updates on pressing issues facing the accounting profession.
Welcome to the AICPA Town Hall. I'm Eric Auskerson, one of your hosts for today. And as you can see, we're coming to you live from the AICPA Engage Conference in Las Vegas. We've been busy here. We're going to tell you a little bit about Engage, but we have over 4,000 attendees with us, a whole bunch of different tracks. So Lisa, it's great to be with you in person, and you and I were fortunate to have a little celebration with many others, recognizing the 1 millionth participation of the town hall, and a lot of the town hall communities here with us and Engage and telling us a lot of stories and the impact this makes on their practice.
It's always fun to get to engage with you live and in person, and we do appreciate those of you who stopped by the booth to have some celebration water and, and cookies with us. But thank you for coming up and saying hello. We really appreciate the feedback, and we're so glad that you're here in person and that you're joining us online. Your online community, you know how vital you are to us and how much we value your insights, so thank you all for being here.
And one of our town hall attendees even wrote a book about the pandemic and kind of, recognized the role the town hall played. So yeah, just great discussions. So let's just talk a little bit more, Lisa, about Engage. So this is Engage at a glance. You're going to review the 9 areas of focus, but 275 sessions, more than 275 sessions, 300 plus speakers. I think the number actually all in, when you include virtual, it's 5,000. If we include the town hall attendees, we're at like 15,000 today. So
let's go with that number.
Let's go with that number. So Lisa, you've been attending a lot of these sessions.
Yeah, it's been a great event. We have 9 different tracks, and they cover everything from advanced accounting and auditing, estate planning, PFP, the practitioner's track, which is close to my heart, SOC and third-party risk, which is new, and we know how much growth opportunity there is in that area, so it's exciting to see a whole track devoted to that. EDGE, which is for leadership development, and a lot of great sessions there. Our finance track that Tom Hood will talk about a little bit, and then a tax for high net worth individuals. So it's been great. The speakers are amazing, and what I love about Engage is that we're really focusing on bringing practitioners into the sessions as speakers so that we're getting your real life insights and not just the theoretical. So great event. We hope you'll join us live in person next year if you're not here this year.
Well, we've got a power hour here. So these are the presenters. I think everyone knows them well. We're going to kick things off with Carla McCall, the current chair of the AICPA. She's got some, she kicked off the Engage conference with Barry Melanson and Dan Hood on Monday, and she's going to provide a lot of insights on leadership and firm strategies. We're then going to have a discussion with Lisa and I on top firm issues. Sue Coffey, the CEO of Public Accounting, is going to provide you a snapshot in the A&A environment. It's kind of like a 10 minutes of your 1.5 hour and 15-minute presentation, right, Sue?
Yeah, of course.
And then we've got Tom Hood, who's the EVP of Growth and Business at the AICPA, and he's going to give an update on the future of finance. And then we're going to conclude. We usually open with DC, but in technical updates, we're going to conclude with those. So let's kick things off here with Carla McCall. Look at this picture. If you haven't gone and read this article in Journal of Accountancy, I encourage you to do this. What a great headline. We need to promote the cool work we do. So Carla is the managing partner of AAF. It's a top 100 firm. She's been doing this for about a decade.
Yeah, just shy of that. No.
But the thing is, Carla, with these strategies, has grown this firm from 15 or 16 million to 65 million plus. So just a lot of success. And Carla, it's fantastic to have you here. Again, just the spirit of this article. I loved, learning. I know I've known you for a while, but learning more about you. So as you look forward to the year ahead, you've set a number of themes. maybe share a little bit about those themes and what you're excited about.
Sure. First of all, I am super excited to be here. Again, I love the town hall. Lisa, you have a lot of fans. My friend Brittany Bessler's a super fan. Hey, Britt, I know she's watching. But thank you for that. I am excited to be able to promote the profession on a national and global stage. And I will be working on promoting value and sustainability, driving innovation and transformation, and fostering inclusion and opportunity. And to summarize all of that, I want to help professionals think about how we can evolve our business models to be employers of choice that ultimately will improve our image, help our pipeline, and increase retention in our profession. Are we working in the smartest way given all the technology choices that we have today? Do we know what our culture non-negotiables are? Has our culture evolved? Do our cultures resonate with the youngest generation in the workforce? We also need to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. Our efforts in our firm started formally in 2017, but that's a strategic imperative, in my opinion, if we want to solve pipeline issues as well. And it's important to the youngest generation, so we need to make sure we're paying attention to that. I also hope, and I speak about this a lot, I am a big believer in collaboration, and so I really hope that firms and individuals in business or wherever you sit in the profession will collaborate with one another, share ideas, share what's working, so we can all be better.
Carla's music to my ears. Every time I hear her talk, I just get so excited and energized about her vision for the profession, because that aligns so closely with the work that we're doing around transforming business models within the profession. And Carla, a couple of weeks ago, we were at council and we were able to walk some folks through the PCPS resources that we're building around business model transformation. But from your perspective, as you're talking with firms or thinking about your own firm, where do you think some of the most needed transformation is? Where can they start?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like business model transformation means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I think of it as structure, governance, and culture. It's kind of how I think about the business model transformation. And as far as structure, what we have today is more choice than we ever had in our profession. We used to be one size fits all. We all ran the same way. We were structured the same way. Now we have choice. We have private equity that's entered our space. We have alternative practice structures. Even firms are creating alternative practice structures that aren't taking outside capital. We have ESOPs. We have an increase of new firms, new entrepreneurs that are creating their firms in a remote environment right from the beginning. So there's lots of choice for the youngest professionals to be able to align with a company and a structure that they believe is the right fit for them. So I think that that's a positive. But along with that is governance. And governance in firms needs to evolve. As you grow, you have to pay attention to how you're making decisions, because given everything that we have coming at us and all of this change, we have to make decisions quick, we have to be agile. So we are a traditionally run firm, but we've evolved our governance model probably 3 or 4 times over the last 10 years as we were experiencing significant growth, so that we could make decisions quicker. We also leave money in the firm. That wasn't always the case. People would just, take it all out at the end of the year. We knew that we needed reserves in order to invest in technology. So we've had a lot of success in that. And governance isn't only just traditional governance, who's voting on things, right? But it's also, what I've heard still, in some themes and some sessions here, is that firms are still struggling to right-size their clients. So what we did in our firm is we created a client retention committee. There's a whole psychology about letting clients go. And the partners that work with them, who've had the long-term relationships, have a hard time doing that. And so anybody in the firm can put forth a client. We have criteria, client non-negotiables, can put forth a client for review of the client retention committee. And that's been in place probably for 5 years and helped us significantly right-size our clients so we could scale. And so think a little bit differently about how you can do things, and we don't always have to do it the same way.
So Carla, near and dear to my heart is retaining and attracting professional talent, right? And you mentioned culture. And can you maybe talk a little bit more about your views on the impact that firm culture has on our ability to attract and retain our talent?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I believe in culture. I feel like our companies need to resonate with the people who work for us and the people who are going to work for us. And how are we evolving that and meeting the newest generation expectations of companies that they want to work for, right? And so when I stepped into a managing partner seat in 2011, one of my goals was to create a human-first culture. Our profession, and this is my opinion, Carla McCall, managing partner, our profession was always run as clients first, firms second, individual third. I wanted to flip that narrative. I wanted the individual first, the client second, and the firm third, because if we have happy people, we're going to have happy clients, and if we have both of those, our firm is going to be successful. And so, we've had a lot of success in that. Now, what did that look like, right? So I'm going to sort of name off a bunch of programs that we have. Just know we didn't do this all at once. And it was an evolution over time, and we're about to launch an employee engagement survey to find out what part of our culture do they align with most? I know it works because we measured our turnover rate from 2018 to 2023, and it went from 26% to 10%. So I know we're doing something right. The question is, what is it? And some of these, yes, I sit inside a firm, but if you're in a finance team, you're in government, you think about your team and the culture of your team. So I think a lot of these crossover. So we have a subsidized MBA. We've had that for a long, long time, and we created a Zip to CPA accelerator. So that comes with a coach to help them get through the exam. We have executive coaches that sit inside our firm that are just dedicated to our team members. We had to up our game in learning and development, especially after 2020. So we partnered with a learning and development company. Now we have an online curriculum that's published every year, and it's a combination of live, podcasts, self-study. We have a management development program, leadership development program. We have written competencies at every level through our firm and every department. People now can put themselves up for promotion. Our executive coaches have done a brilliant job moving to a career self-reliance. So instead of waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder that you're ready, you're promoting yourself. What is the value that you add to the firm? There's a lot of power in that. We have had an innovation focus, at least for the last, formal for the last 6 or 7 years, and that has gotten us ready for what we're facing today, which is figuring out Gen AI and really increasing our automation efforts. Diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging, which I already talked about. We have Flex PTO, work from anywhere. So there's a lot. But this, again, was an evolution over time. I always talk about keep an external view because you need to know what's going on in order to bring it back to your organizations, but you also need to pay attention internally to the people. How do the people feel aligned? Do they feel engaged? Ask for feedback on a regular basis, and that's sort of been successful for us. And I'll end with transparency. I really think that we need more transparency in our profession. When I grew up, everything was a mystery. You didn't know financials, you didn't know how big we were, you didn't know how to get promoted. And so that was another goal of mine, sitting in a managing partner seat, was how can we increase transparency so people know how they're connected to the firm? How are they connected to the organization? How are they connected to the finance department? How does their work add value? I publish state of the firm videos on an annual basis. I show financials, I show metrics, I show goals, I talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and very realistic. And when we change policies, I encourage my senior leadership team to always put the why, not just here's the new policy. What was our thought behind it? Why are we moving in this direction? What does that mean? I think understanding that and then pay transparency. People don't know the financial freedom that we have and enjoy in this profession, and we don't talk about it enough. And I think we need to talk about the ability to be an entrepreneur, to build a business, and that you will have financial freedom.
Carla, fantastic. So you're going to be speaking all over the country in the year ahead, bringing this message. I mean, you've got all these different strategies from HR, flex, PTO, to putting in place project managers, coaches, and then you've got the results. So I just think this is something that the firms, the profession need to listen to over the year ahead. And thanks for your leadership on this, and look forward to you participating in these other topics as we move through today's town hall. So Lisa, let's talk about the top issues facing firms.
Thank you. Just released, so this is hot off the presses, as we used to say back in PPP days. Thank you to the 700 of you who responded to the PCPS Top Issues Survey, who answered my consistent pleas to participate, so thank you. And these are the results. I know it can look like quite of an eye chart, but let's just focus in on what we're trying to talk about here. So we asked people inside firms to tell us what their top issues were. And what you'll see is that we break those results out by firm size, and we've picked some of the ones that show the commonalities. So a lot of times we think that maybe the challenges in a small firm are different than the challenges in a larger firm, but I think this chart shows us that in reality, as a profession, many of us are facing the same issues. So if we look at the current challenges, finding staff is rated #1 by all firm sizes except sole practitioners. And working with the IRS is a common challenge. The complexity and changing of tax laws, we know that's a pain point. We hear that quite regularly from our town hall community. Seasonality, those layering of deadlines, we also know as a consistent pain point. And that's why what Carla's talking about and what we're talking about with kind of managing how you run the firm a little more tightly is to try to even out some of that seasonality and even out some of these pain points that help us find and retain talent. You can see that some of the larger firm size issues are a little different, and we'll come back and we'll talk more in depth about these. And what we'll also do is point you to a roadmap of the resources that will help support you as you tackle these common challenges. And then we ask, do you see as the biggest impact on your firm in the next 5 years? And I think we've got another slide for that one. So if we look at this again, a lot of consistency in what firm leaders think will be impacting them. And I don't think there's any big surprises, but changing regulatory environment, staffing, both retaining and attracting talent, changing technologies. We've got so many sessions here at Engage around all the new technologies. The exhibit hall is full of vendors who are showcasing their technology that can really work to drive efficiency, drive automation, reduce some of the grunt work that we used to do. So those are great opportunities to explore how technologies can help you meet your changing client needs, which is one of the next commonalities in what firms think will be impacting them over the next 5 years. So again, we'll dig into all of this data. We'll come back to you with more. But I think it's interesting how all of this aligns to the work that we're doing around the PCPS Transforming Your Business Model project that I've been talking about for a while now. So I know that Eric will give me more time to talk about that as we continue to build out resources for you. But we've got a link in the slides to the overall toolkit. You can download the slides, keep them in your resources, and then you'll find a link to our overall Transforming Your Business Model. So this is just my take on what the highlights are, and you'll have this in your slides to refer back to.
Well, and here's
here's my little plug that we were recognized as Accounting Today's top new product for 2024. So I'm excited about that.
Well, Lisa, that's a great setup for another survey that we have in the works. But the thing about these surveys here, so this is the CAS benchmarking survey, Client Advisory Services area. This is the highest growth area in the firms, just a tremendous opportunity. And what you get by participating in this benchmark survey is that you will receive an Excel document that has all the data in it, and you can really slice the data and analyze your firm against other firms. So this is one thing that you make us all smarter by participating, but you'll also, the only way to get that spreadsheet is if we have your data, and then we'll give you the macro data, and I think that will be extremely valuable for you. And when we look, these are the types of things that we're going to be asking questions on related to the CAS benchmarking survey. We've really worked hard on putting together a methodology, a practice strategy. I mean, you heard Carla, it's a lot about processes and training your people, and that is the key. The key to building out these practice areas is to understand the basic building blocks of how you're going to be doing these different components. And then yes, it's the technology, but I can tell you the successful firms focus on these elements as much, if not more, than what is the different technology solutions that you're going to put in place. And this is an evolution that's occurring within the CAS area, this move from financial CAS to business insights CAS. A lot of similarities here, Tom, in the future of finance on how the finance role is being transformed in corporations. So when you go through the survey, you'll see questions related to these different areas.
Eric, I
Yes.
just want to put a plug
Please,
because we use
jump in.
CPA.com from the beginning in our CAS practice, and it is extremely helpful. Our CAS practice scaled to 10 million in 5 years. So
Yeah, well, just
it
maybe even
works.
just in that. I mean, that
Yeah.
just commenting on, understanding your staffing plan, your go-to-market plan, focusing on niches.
Yeah.
So looking at, this is the other thing that will help unpack with you, because guess what? There's a lot of challenges out there. And Lisa, you're well aware of this. So these are the types of things that we're working on, defining the go-to-market strategy. How are you doing the recruiting? Challenges moving to subscription pricing. That's the right model for the CAS area. You're looking at your business model. It's really putting together a solution offering. So these are the elements that we know are challenges, but we're working on solutions. So Lisa, I don't know if you've got any final comment on just kind of some of this work.
Yeah, I just think it's so important to be thinking about what services your clients need, and this is one that we know they need. I've told you before about how I was running a small business with me, an accounting clerk, and if I'd had this opportunity to outsource all of that work, I could have really leveraged the great insights that using a CAS offering could have provided. So I think it's a huge opportunity to provide that value and stickiness that you want with your clients.
So thank you, and we're just going to keep on going, and this is going to be another great segment here, Sue. So thanks for being here, and I'll let you take it away.
Always happy to be here, and I always appreciate the opportunity. So I kicked off the Advanced A&A track of the Engage conference, and my kickoff was not an A&A update by any means. There are way smarter people, and we had a million sessions that were designed to really give members the information they needed from an A&A perspective. But mine was really more about the environment that's impacting A&A practice and what are the risks that we face just in general about the practice and the opportunities that we have as a result of those risks. So I started my discussion with this slide to give attendees the perspective of what I wake up thinking about every day and how I lead our team in what we deliver for you. And I look at what's currently happening or is what on the horizon that could impact things like our reputation and the trust that we hold so dear, that we've worked so hard to acquire, and that is so easy to lose. I look at the health of CPA firms and the relevancy of our services, as we've been talking about that. How we as a profession and as firms are positioned for growth, and how we constantly innovate what we do, not just to keep up, but to lead and stay ahead of the game. That is so critical in the A&A area. Our talent pipeline, Carla, and our capacity to grow has been front and center in my world for the last several years.
Really?
Yeah. And then, creating the right environment for us to practice in with state and federal policymakers so we can effectively serve businesses, communities, and individuals is something that is super important. And I know you hear from Mark Peterson a lot about this one. And so that was what the conversation was really about. And we talked about the global, national, and state environments and how our advocacy initiatives are really impacting how the profession can operate. As I said, I know you hear from Mark frequently, so I'm not going to go through all of these, but you can see, like, highlighted on this slide the issues that we focused on during this presentation and the things that are most prevalently impacting ANA practice. So for example, our advocacy related to publicly traded clients and their auditors is front and center, and the impact the PCAOB inspection and enforcement programs are having on firms' willingness to do this work. So we talked a little bit about that, the advocacy we're doing in that space. We talked actually a lot about AI peppered throughout the conversation. You know, we're seeing hundreds of bills that are being introduced either in Congress or across state legislatures, which, if enacted, will create really this incredible, like, terrible patchwork, a fragmented approach, which creates risk, but then risk creates opportunity, right? So we talked a little bit about that. We discussed the importance of our Enhancing Audit Quality initiative and the success we've seen with it. This is one of our most important initiatives for managing our reputation and trust in the ANA space. EAQ, for those who don't know what it is, was established just about 10 years ago as a result of some pretty poor work that we were seeing in audits of employee benefit plans, which really did put our trust and reputation at risk. And the program has really, quite frankly, resulted in significant improvement in this area. And I really, for those of you who are peer reviewers in the audience, thank you for that, because I know you were a big part of it, and there was pain associated with it, so thank you for that. Every year, we select 5 areas of focus based on a lot of data. We mine a lot of data on an annual basis, and we look to where practitioners are most challenged. And you can see these are the 5 focus areas for this year. And then what we do is we align all of AICPA resources around it. So, you know, the audit standard setting area, or the accounting and review standard setting area, we develop guidance and training and conference tracks, and peer review focuses on it. So organizationally, we're completely aligned with all of these 5 initiatives. I will say, though, I particularly focused on 2 of these with the group. One was single audits, and the other was SOC engagements. Single audits because of the magnitude of the funding that came out of the federal government from the pandemic, and then there's the infrastructure funding that sits on top of all of that, and there are many, many more engagements as a result, single audit engagements as a result, and they are complex, they are high risk, and we really need to focus on them. And then SOC engagements because they are so specialized and so important and such a big opportunity. And frankly, we're seeing higher deficiency rates in practice here. So we need to focus on them a little bit more. Quality management is a really big deal this year too. The new standards become effective next year, and they are very different from the QC standards. Peer review is going to beat the heck out of them in 2026. So firms that do ANA work really need to focus on these standards, and we have a ton of resources out in the marketplace to help. We've had a number of sessions during this conference to help practitioners, and we really, for those of you who have not started to think about it, it's really something that you need to do. We also talked about the work we're doing to prepare the profession for the Gen AI opportunity. We've actually had a committee focusing on AI for several years now, and they have issued several white papers or thought leadership pieces to help practitioners understand how to use AI and what the opportunity is. And they're working on a new series right now really focused on Gen AI with CPA Canada, EY, and Grant Thornton. So I'm really excited for them to come out. We've also put together an advisory group that's helping shape guidance for auditors on 3 things: how to audit an entity that uses Gen AI as part of its financial reporting system, how to audit the AI itself, and if all of those 500 bills come to a fruition and are enacted, they're all going to have audit requirements, and we are going to be the profession that they turn to in order to do that work. So from an advocacy perspective, we're really following all of that and educating lawmakers on an audit is very different from a verification. So there's a lot of work we have to do there and are doing. And then the third is how to audit using Gen I. And we've got the DAS audit solution and other solutions out there that help us do that. And then lastly, we spent just a little bit of time on our talent pipeline, mostly because I was moderating a session the following day and we were going to be going very deeply into the topic. But this is something that we are going to go into deeper at our next town hall on the 27th of June. Okay, so I will be back on the 27th of June and we will talk about this. But just to give you a little teaser, there is a group called NPEG, the National Pipeline Advisory Group, that was established last year by AICPA's Governing Council to develop a data-driven national talent strategy that was highly inclusive of our profession's many stakeholders. And this slide is really just a teaser of what the data is telling us the real issues are and some of the solutions that NPEG is recommending. So in a nutshell, we need to tell a way more compelling story about the opportunities in our profession and the cool things we do. We need to address the cost and time of education and put more flexibility into our licensure system, and that gets to the 120, 150-hour debate, so you'll hear more about that on the 27th. We need to make the academic experience way more engaging and revamp principles of accounting and create more of a pull-through environment in universities than a weed out. We need to provide way better support for CPA candidates. The number one thing they tell us is they need more time to study. We need to enhance the employee experience within the first 5 years. That goes to what Lisa has been working on and Carla is going to be focusing on. Bad experience results in social media, and that impacts the front of our pipeline. And then we really need to expand the paths for underrepresented groups. We can't ignore the fact that the complexion of our profession does not match our country's population. So more to come on that. And again, last teaser, the QR code here, that will take you to NPEG's draft report. So I'd encourage you to take a peek at it before our next town hall.
Well, Sue, that was a great review. And I mean, how many, this is a pretty comprehensive report. It's about 80 pages?
It's about 80 pages, but there is an executive summary, which is about 6 pages, and that's a good teaser, but it is incredibly well written. It has a lot of data, facts in it that will help you understand what you need to do as a business owner, a leader in a finance department, or the leader of a CPA firm in order to create that culture to attract and retain.
And I really would encourage you to read that before the June 27th town hall, if you haven't already, because I think it'll help address some of the questions that we commonly get about the 150-hour rule, as one just pops up in the Q&A.
Yeah, for sure.
So take a look at that report, and then I think that'll help you as Sue comes back on June 27th. So I think that'll be a great conversation, and thank you for doing that.
Happy to do it.
Can I make one point? Because I think it's important. We can't just tell a better story and think that's going to make a difference if we're not evolving our organizations to be a better place to work. So I just want to make that point because we have to focus on that. Otherwise, just telling the story alone, I don't, isn't going to have as much impact.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
You have to make the fundamental changes within how the firm operates.
We have to have the story to
employees-
tell in order to tell the story. Yeah.
Agreed.
And can I add that all that work in there, Sue, applies equally to our finance community. So it's the
100%.
exact same stuff. And we find they're having the same type of issues. So everybody out there that's in finance, nonprofit, business and government, it's all something you can use for that.
Well, Tom, we're going to turn to you now, but just a couple, we've got a link that I know is not working. We always get a lot of feedback here. So we apologize that the CAS benchmarking survey, that link did not work in that slide. You will be getting an updated link in the newsletter coming out. So over to you, Tom.
Okay, so Future Finance is our attempt to address our probably 40% of our membership who are in business, industry, government, and nonprofits. In my early days of my career, I was a CFO in industry. So when Barry brought me here, I've been here this will be my 3rd year, going into my 4th. And this was the first thing we said, how can we get a community spun up of large, influential finance leaders to tell us what they're dealing with? So keep in mind, this was 3 years ago, which was right at the end of the pandemic. And so we just started reaching out and calling members, people that we knew in the industry, and asking them what were the big issues that they were dealing with. And after probably about a dozen calls, we were finding they were all dealing with the same things. So then we went back to them and said, would you be interested in it if we convened a group of you to share all the research that we do at AICPA and SEMA, and we'll share some of that today, and help us understand your issues and where you're headed with it. So that was the big idea of this group. It's now, we're 3 years in, it's about 50 people on there. We convene this group every other month on Zoom and work from that perspective. So it's been great to see that feedback. And this is the emerging themes, or this is the new, as we call it, the CFO, the future, so to speak. And this is our most recent report, and you can see the purple is the traditional finance and accounting group in a company, and look at how it's growing, right, and expanding. Obviously, data and technology, big one. Go out one more ring, and you've got leading people and transformations. Go up again, and we get the idea of sustainability that's been kind of moving in the global conversation, and then value and partnership. And by the way, our group in the US is just one of about 5 global groups that we have all over the world. So that's the benefit of the SEMA AICPA combination, has allowed us to get insight around the world from that perspective. So we're going to share some of that with you today. And this is the top concerns. We poll this group pretty frequently, about every quarter, and watch how these things are moving. So this was spring of 2023, a little over a year ago, and that's when that was a top 5 there. Note talent has been there. Talent was there from the minute we formed the group as #1, right next to accelerated digital transformation and the need for new skills. But look what's happened since then to spring of 24. Suddenly, digital transformation popped up to #1 as many of these companies were using all the accelerated technology trends, were driving them to do more transformations, led by the CFO group. Gen AI just popped out of nowhere and showed up on the screen. #2 issue, which actually surprised me. #3, need for new skills. #4, finding and retaining talent. And #5, maintaining culture in a hybrid environment. Almost every one of those companies you saw on that slide are working through this pandemic. They're not going back to work. They're keeping their remote cultures, which is kind of interesting. Now, a lot of you might say, I can't relate to those big giant companies. Well, the fact is we take this on the roadshow through state societies and our own work, and we find that even the middle market CFOs, small company ones, they're dealing with the same issues. They're just different sizes and scales. But everyone's moving into, and it also marries over into the CAS practice, because it's the same thing that CAS is dealing with. And oftentimes CAS is the way you're solving your customers' problems about these same issues. So that's kind of, it's been really, I like to say, there's a great quote by Isaac Newton. It says, if we can see further, it's because we stand on the shoulders of giants. These are some of the shoulders of giants that we're standing on.
Hey, Tom, quick question. I mean, what's your thoughts on the talent move? You know, a little bit more expansion on that.
So
Going from 1 to 4.
Oh, yeah, so it's because so they would say it's not that it's less important, it's that these other things flew in and took on a higher importance. So if they had to upgrade their whole corporate infrastructure in technology, that became even bigger than talent. They're still thinking talent's a major issue, but it's like suddenly that took place. And Gen AI, most of these big companies, Gen AI is being actually led by the CFO office. So often some of our members are in there leading those projects, which is beyond just finance. They're doing it for the whole enterprise, which I thought was pretty cool.
And Tom, would you agree that even smaller entities, they're going to be turning to their CPA firms that serve them to help them understand how Gen AI can help them?
Correct, yeah. And you can use like these top issues in a conversation starter with your clients to say, here's what we're hearing from our association and all kinds of CFOs. Are any of these relevant to you? That's how we got the group together.
Yeah.
And then if they say, yeah, #3 or #1, but pretty much every time we show them that top issues, they're like, yep, that's mine, that's mine. They go right down the list. And that's like, so now what are you guys doing about this? And then we say, okay, well, here's what we're trying to do.
So the Gen AI could help the talent issue, right?
And I think that could be why it's
do more
moved
with
down
less.
slightly,
Yeah.
right? But they're just anticipating it, and they're not all on it yet.
Right.
Yeah, but that's a good point.
Well, and Lisa, in the resources that PCPS issues, there's a whole technology section that talks about how technology can help the talent issue.
Yeah, and we give some resources around, good tech policies and lean heavily on our friends at CPA.com to provide their research into how firms of all sizes can leverage technology effectively.
Yeah, and one question that just came in is asking, well, is technology is Gen AI going to displace, the work of the firms or in the finance role? And we've been talking about this at Engage. The cloud computing actually created the CAS category. So it built out a whole new service area where, firms could, provide, cloud accounting, bill payment, all these different services for the small business in a seamless fashion. And what we're seeing with Gen AI actually is it's accelerating the advisory capabilities. So it's going to allow the firms to actually do more. And the key down arrow here is that businesses want somebody else to run the machines. They're going to want the firms to run the machines. And the same thing in the finance role, Tom, back to you. It's just making the finance function that much more important in the corporation. So it's really going to provide more value. So and we've always been talking about this over the last few decades. It's not really, technology doesn't displace the firms or the finance role. It makes the capabilities, better and actually drives the value.
Yeah, so I go way back. So I remember vividly, it was in the 80s, VisiCalc came out. Right. And as a CFO in business and industry, that was a game changer, right? We had to go from the paper 13 columns to that. And there was a Wall Street Journal article, Wall Street Journal, by the way, not like Wired magazine, that said the electronic spreadsheet is going to eliminate the accounting function, right? Now what happened? Actually, the accounting function exploded because we could do a lot more with the tool, and we could answer a lot more questions that businesses needed answering. I think Gen AI is going to be the same way. And what we're hearing now is people are saying it's going to be CPAs with Gen AI are going to replace CPAs without Gen AI, but not losing everybody. You might lose some job pieces, but you're not going to automate the whole profession.
Tom, there was a really good article in the Financial Times on either Sunday or Monday about this and how you should use Gen AI as a coworker.
Yeah.
And it's going to supplement what you do, not displace you, but supplement what you do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing is to focus on the productivity, the personal office productivity, before you start worrying about putting all your data in there. Because everyone's scared about putting their data in, and you should be. So if you don't have a separate instance or a co-pilot in a private instance, but you can use it for generic things like helping you write things better and all that. And that time savings is huge, right? That's going to add up a whole lot from our profession standpoint. Yeah. So I think that's where we see it going. Now, this one gets to this idea of transformation, and this is the best research we ever did that nobody read. I kid you not. So this was research we did from our CIMA group on the kind of what was the secret success of transformations. And it was with KPMG, and the date it was released was March of 2020. So what was happening?
Okay.
What was happening?
I just thought nobody was reading your stuff.
Nobody was looking for a white paper on transformation when COVID was going on. So every time you talk about it, people chuckle, but we found that it's got some really big insights in there. And effectively, this pointed out the most important piece in a transformation is the mindset of your people. And if you look at the bottom there, the two first bars, right? The motivation of the workforce to make or embrace change, and a growth mindset, motivation to learn and evolve. And that's a tone that leaders set. I heard you talk about that, Carla. So that's what we have to do as leaders. And just doing that one thing tips your odds of success with all your transformations you're going to be doing by 39%. Now, throw in success skills, and I like the notion of success. They call them soft skills, because there's nothing soft about them. Teamwork and collaborative working culture, and workforce soft skills. It's the ability to influence, curiosity, and problem solving. And then, oh, by the way, then they add the 9%, which is data, which is clearly probably growing in this environment we're in right now. But if you add those up, that's like tipping the odds, since we're in Vegas, tip the odds of your transformation by 89% for those key things. And you should do that before you start throwing all the big technology and process improvements in. Start these upskilling processes before that to get the best results. So we thought that's been a big eye-opener, and our finance teams, when they see this, are going, wow, this is critical. And so we try to help them with that whole notion of mindset. Now this, Eric's kind of already talked about this, but this is that evolving role, the value-added CFO role, right? So you can see on the left, that's the traditional accounting, right? Record keeping, bookkeeping, getting the transaction in. That's getting automated. You're going to be moving to the right, and that's where value creation happens. That's where you're going to create value. By the way, if you're doing cash practices, it's the same model for how you're going to do that in your cash practice. So this is how we create value as finance professionals. So you can see we're going into more like FP&A and decision support, and then ultimately helping impact and influence the business to do good things. So that's kind of the neat thing about where we're going with the CFO of the future.
A few things going on, Tom. So
Good stuff.
thank you. All right, Lisa, we're going to close with the DC and technical updates.
Yeah, well, we've got a fairly short technical update for you, but we did want to take a minute to remind you that if you have clients who were impacted by some of the storms that came through earlier, the June 17 deadline is coming up fast. So you've got about 7 states with areas of impact, and we've given you a link to the reminders on what areas were included there. We also have another announcement of disaster relief for other states, and you can keep up with all of that on our Disaster Relief Resource Center, because there are, unfortunately, disaster notices coming out very, very frequently. So turn to that resource to keep you up to date on that. Also, we wanted to make sure that we covered that the IRS has made an announcement that their direct file program that they test piloted this year, they've decided to make that permanent. They've decided to expand the scope for the next filing season, not only by moving it from just 12 states from the pilot program, but to all states, and also expanding the scope of the taxpayers who could use this system by incorporating some taxpayers who are eligible for certain credits. So the pilot program, they processed about 140,000 returns. That's just a drop in the bucket of all of the returns filed. So, we're keeping an eye on that. But Eric, I know this is a hot button issue within Congress, and how much funding is the IRS going to be spending on this, and is this where our taxpayer dollars need to be going? So we've got some quotes pulled out from you or for you on the differing views on the direct file program.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely a partisan fight that's occurring, as you can see by these 2 quotes. It's not, they're calling it's a free file program, but it's not free. I mean, the estimates is that, and some people feel these estimates are low, it costs the government $32 million to build that, 140,000 returns. So, costing, a few $100s per return. And then there's, a lot more money that's going to have to be put forth to make this available in all 50 states. So this is something that we'll watch as it's debated in Congress, and I'm sure there'll be other people discussing it as well. Actually, I saw an Accounting Today article that came out on it today.
We'll keep an eye on that. We also have another ANA update for you in honor of Sue being with us today. And this is regarding proposed changes to the ANA guide on employee benefit plans. I know that so many firms do employee benefit plan work, so I wanted to make sure that we called out that there is a request for you to give some informal commentary on the proposed changes. As you can see, they are very technical, and I'm not going to get into them, but at a higher level, illustrative tax status disclosures regarding ERISA Section 103A3C, and financial statement presentations of amounts received by a plan through a revenue share arrangement. So the FINREC, Financial Reporting Executive Committee, and our Employee Benefit Expert Panel have been working hard on this. And again, if you're in this space, we would like for you to give us some feedback on the proposed changes to the ANA guide, which I know the DOL refers to regularly as the single source of truth for EBP audits. So if you have that client work, feel free to review the documents and send your feedback by July 14th so that we can get those guides updated for you.
And resources, we're going to have, well, it's actually right here.
Yeah.
We've got some resources for employee benefit audits. A lot of things are changing. We've actually been advancing a platform which you can learn about this EVP tool as part of our DAS project. So I know a lot of firms are finding value in leveraging this. I mean, Sue, I don't know if you've got any comments on some of these tools.
The development team is on top of all of the changes that are being made and ready to incorporate once they're adopted.
So now we're going to move to open forum. That was quite a lot covered in the last 50 minutes plus. Carl, let me just start with you. The questions. Sure. One question came in was just asking you about compensation strategies and how does that work at AAF, and do you share when you're working on that with the partners and employees?
Yeah.
How is that managed? And who gets some of that data?
I know.
That's the big.
Good question. Yeah, I went through a process of going through salary bands in our firm, reviewed it. Reviewed it with our executive board. Where we've started with that is I meet with everybody who comes into our firm, and as a welcome to the firm, and I go through a little bit about the firm culture and things like that. And I've started with so these are new professionals coming out of college. I've started to put up that salary band from staff to partner. I mean, you can get this information if you Google it. I mean, there's so many studies out there, but nobody seems to sort of do it. But I took it for our firm, and I'm going to see if it makes a difference with people and the newest staff that are coming in. We've talked about publishing it in the firm. Mm-hmm. There's pros and cons to that. There's always people that are nervous, and what if it gets out, and what if it's competitor, whatever. So we're discussing that now. But I think that we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it openly. We need to talk about it more, because I do one-on-ones. I do stay interviews with people throughout the firm, and I ask some of them, what do you think a partner makes? And it is crazy low. And so I share with them what the potential is, mm-hmm. and as an income partner or an equity partner, and they are just like blown away. So I just think if we have an opportunity to do it, and if you don't want to do it in a public way, find some interesting ways to start small, and then maybe work towards something bigger.
And Carla, we have just released through PCPS, the Transforming Your Business Model project, a tool set around compensation strategies. And in there is a tool that you can use to help you frame your research, because as we've alluded to, we're not competing with just the CPA firm down the street anymore. We are competing for talent across all careers. And so this research guide will ask you to pick a position that you want to research, and then the location. And then it gives you a list of different sources that you can go get some compensation information around. So that's one tool that you can use if you're trying to figure out, is your compensation strategy competitive? But then it also gives you some ideas on what else people are looking for in addition to compensation. So flexibility, time off, and things like that. So you can help understand what's motivating your people individually, and then kind of figure out what the entire package could look like.
Lisa, if I could just add that the issue of compensation, we did a lot of research as part of the National Pipeline Advisory Group, and that was the #1 issue that both stakeholders of our profession, so all of you, said that is the one thing that we could all do to make a difference and really do understand what starting salaries are saying in the marketplace vis-a-vis other professions, not that we're competing with. And that's what the students said too, that they want to be compensated according to the work that they're doing and the time that they're putting in. And there are so many other opportunities they have that pay more, and that is a demotivator.
Yeah, it's not easy though. I mean, I had a professor come up to me after Monday and said, that's the #1 issue for the sophomores. There's a $30,000 to $40,000 difference between accounting and finance, mm-hmm. but it's a trickle effect up, right? So you can't just change it,
no.
But that puts an exclamation point on being able to harness technology and Gen AI, so how do we work smarter, and mm-hmm. so we have more profit, right?
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
If we keep our pricing, we got to change our pricing model. charge.
But Carl, I think, I mean, your point on what, what the partners make, things are being adjusted, the starting salaries are changing.
Yeah.
You've got economic headwinds
Sure.
now, and so there was some frothiness in the marketplace a few years back. Things have settled down a little bit, but it's Sue.
There's still more that needs to be done.
Sue,
Yeah.
still more that needs to be
Yeah.
done.
Sure.
Well said.
Agreed.
So, Lisa, we got any other questions we want to throw to the panel here before we move to our resource section?
We got a question about coaching and mentoring. How important is mentoring in for firm leaders to be doing with their staff? And I'm going to pitch that to you, Carla, but I'm going to give a plug to the PCPS Transforming Your Business Model project. I hope that's not a drinking game for y'all. But we do have a mentoring guide in there that you can access to, if you have not created a mentoring program yet, it'll walk you step by step through how to create that program. And Carla, I'll let you weigh in on that.
Yeah, so that was just about mentoring and coaching in
Yeah.
companies. Okay. So when we were smaller, we had I created our first mentoring program. As we started to grow, we shifted it from mentor to coach. And then the bigger we got, we realized that, how do I say this nicely? Accountants aren't always great coaches, I guess. And so we then evolved to doing it in a more professional way. That's why we brought in an executive coach. Now, you don't have to bring in somebody on your team. You could potentially, I suppose, outsource it. But there's also this concept of talent advisors, I guess would be, I would say, one step down from an executive coach. So some firms have had amazing success with talent advisors, and they are dedicated, they're assigned typically by level, they could be assigned by industry, but they're leveraging the professional staff on that. And so we took the professional staff, and they are performance managers. They're solely looking at the technical, the work, the competencies, how to get to the next level. All of the career stuff now sits with our coaches about career aspirations. If I want to switch departments, or not enjoying what I'm doing, or how do I navigate this conversation, that is all done with the executive coaching. I think it's a strategic imperative, no matter what your program looks like, or if you're really small and you're just getting started, use the resources and start somewhere. What I would say is just make sure you have consistency. What I've learned is that you can't leave it up to the people to just have the meeting. Have some consistent questions that you expect to be asked in those. What is your objective of the program, and what are you trying to get at? And then design the questions around that. When you leave it open, you realize that there'll be gaps because everybody's going to do it in a different way. And quite frankly, not everybody is built to be a coach. So when we started, it was like everybody has to be one. Then we realized, yeah, maybe that's not a good idea. And so we really invited people to be mentors and coaches of other people.
Carl, that's a great conclusion to this panel. I mean, it's been a power hour. Thank you very much, Carla, for being here with us today. Tom Hood, Sue Coffey. We're now just going to kind of cover some resources that we want to leave you with. First off, we've got this summary blog, which covers a lot of what we've discussed today, a lot of what's being discussed here at Engage, about generative AI, growth of the client advisory services, audit transformation, and tax disruption. So take a look at that. We will be doing another live town hall at Digital CPA at the end of this year. So we'd welcome to have you there in person. Here's some information on that event. It's really a great event. A lot of progressive firms of all sizes come to that event. And here is a more straightforward way to subscribe to the town hall. We always are trying to make it easier, so you can take a picture of that, scan that, and it will automatically register you for the town hall series. Here's some of the town hall resources. We will be sending out our regular newsletter highlighting a lot of the different materials that we covered today. So our next town hall will be June 27th. We've already talked a little bit about some of the topics. Here's the group that will be with you on that day. So Lisa, just fantastic being here in person with you, with all of the attendees here. This live audience, always great to have a live audience. So thank you. Maybe we give them a round of applause. Yeah. So with that, we'll sign off and be speaking with all of you sometime later this month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your participation. You can now subscribe to the AICPA Town Hall series on your favorite podcast platform, as well as watch archives on YouTube and AICPA TV. Tune in for live broadcasts Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.